Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Regan, and today we're going to talk about water. Um, I did get to do some pretty fun research about this for this paper that we wrote, and found it to be an issue that is extremely interesting to me. Just based on, I didn't realize how much was going on. I thought today we could talk about some of the specifics I had to leave out of my paper, and a couple points that some of the local water groups are tackling, specifically the Sierra Club. I found out just how much they're doing down here to try to help the issue. So here we have some fun cartoons that basically tackle the issue, calling Los Angeles the water black hole, as we see in the center here, is a little much, but I mean, we do import about 80% of our water from other watersheds, which is pretty huge, including out of state, mostly down here through the Colorado River. But we do wash our cars, drink, whatever we're going to use our water for, with basically other people's water, um, or what would be water from other areas, which isn't unheard of. But we are one of the biggest importers of water in the country. So we're here down in Los Angeles, or Los Angeles area, I should say. Um, Here's the Hoover Dam over by Las Vegas, Colorado River. Um, the Colorado River Aqueduct, which runs down out to Orange County, and then there's some tributaries that go into San Bernardino County. We have the LA Aqueduct, the famous LA Aqueduct, that comes down through San Fernando Valley into Los Angeles, through Owens Lake and the Owens River. And then we have the California Aqueduct, which comes down from the San Francisco River, or the Delta up in the San Francisco Bay, San Joaquin River Delta, um, over by Stockton, just about, is right up in here. So most people have had a bottled water, especially from the Arrowhead company. Arrowhead being a local brand here. It's based over in the San Bernardino Mountains. The Arrowhead Spring is actually named after this little rock formation here that looks like an arrowhead, which is pretty interesting. And it's owned by Nestle. Um, so Nestle is currently in a bit of a legal bind. The government has given them a lease for the past about 100 and some odd years to pull water out of Arrowhead Spring. Um, Currently, people are trying to hold them to only drawing about 7.3 acre feet per year from surface streams. So 7.3 acre feet is about 2.37 million gallons. That's a lot of water. So, that seems like a lot, like that's a lot of water to be pulling out of any area, they're pulling it out of this stream right here, diverting this water from Strawberry Creek over in the San Bernardino National Forest, mainly through things like this piping. So they draw it out of these upland aquifers down and out and over to basically what is this pumping station down here. And you see a train here, and they continue to train out water. Um, so at the time, that number is based on uh, some pre 1915 numbers of like how much water they could be pulling out. And at the time, they would be pulling out about 750 train cars worth of water a year. That's a lot of water, but it doesn't seem like that much. In 2019, they pulled out 68 million gallons of water. That's about 2,258 train cars in 2019. That's a lot. So there's a pretty big jump in the amount of water that they've produced from 100 years ago to today. And they're actively fighting against this. This is an issue that the Sierra Club and other um, resource management groups have been fighting over for quite a bit now. Nestle saying they're being responsible about how much they pull, and they're allowed to pull this amount of water, and they can do whatever they want. And other groups trying to limit them. So currently, they're applying for their lease again, and this is something that the U.S. Forest Service usually just rubber stamps, and this year it's not just a rubber stamp. There's actually an argument because the difference between 2 to 3 million gallons and 200, or rather, and 68 million gallons is quite a big difference, especially since they're making, ridiculous amounts of money from this kind of thing. Nestle makes about $7.8 billion on the bottled water industry annually across all their brands. That's not just the Arrowhead brand, but that's where it's coming from. So Arrowhead is coming from right here, and this is water that we could be using for Southern California, instead of piping it in from Northern California, instead of pulling it out of Owens Valley. We could have been pulling this water from here, and this is millions of gallons a year that could have been redirected to Los Angeles. Another option is desalination. Um, right now, there is a big desalination plant being put in over where a hydropower plant was down in Huntington Beach. Um, the Sierra Club has taken a pretty interesting stance on this because desalination, although yes, it can provide a good amount of fresh water from seawater by removing the salts and what have you, it actually is a pretty big burden, because it is actually pulling things from, it's a large draw on the power grid. A lot of places that use desalination have found that it actually costs more than other sources because of how much they're pulling from the power grid. Another thing is that it creates these salts, right? Because you got to pull the salt out of the water, but the salts don't go anywhere. You have to then get rid of them. So that stuff is toxic. It's like salts and chemicals and anything else that's been dumped into the water, because they have a pipe going out into the ocean. Not to mention the fish, the ecology, because now you're just sucking in thousands of gallons of water constantly. There's a lot of impact in this kind of situation, in this kind of building, in this kind of generation plant, that needs to be dealt with and isn't necessarily being looked at too closely because people are like, oh, we want water, so desalination. Clean the water, clean the seawater. We have plenty of seawater. Yeah, but things like algae get into it, red tide, chemicals, anything that's been dumped, out in those waters, like that stuff now has to be removed from the water. And some of these plants, like, they can pull most of it out, but there still might be some in there. So it's tricky. And I'm pretty pro desalination because I've dealt with it before in the Navy. Um, but yeah, it is something that needs to be dealt with. Um, Another thing is that, you know, water supply piping leads to about 6 billion gallons of water being lost each year. And here, things like, evaporation in our standing water pools and things like that lead to pretty significant losses in our water supply. Also lead to rain, also lead to different things. But, these are issues that could be dealt with, through engineering and infrastructure. Instead of spending billions of dollars on a new desalination plant and the maintenance and the power and the cleanup, I mean, we could be updating some of these things for significantly less. And this is what the Sierra Club is really pointing at, to say, like, we could be spending our money more effectively. As taxpayers and as people that are spending our money, money is tight, even on the state level, and we could be using it better. And I like that was Sierra Club's message, that they really brought forward. And then just to hit the works cited real quick, because this is just for this bunch of images. Um, but anyway, those are some of the issues that have been dealt with. I just want to hit stuff real quick and hit some of those numbers because they get overlooked all the time. Anyway, thank you for your time. I will talk to you later. Bye bye.